guys a little run through on version control systems. And this is the one that I actually submitted to speak on. The other one I did the other day on the URL handling. That was one that Carrie called me up and said, hey, can you do it?
Volume?
Volume?
The mic on?
Yeah, it's on.
It's not picking up anything.
Can you hear it?
Yeah, I think you just need to be able to be close to the mic.
Okay, I'll be on the mic.
Yeah.
I'm
Just
on
for
the
us
mic.
deaf cues at the back. That's it.
Okay. How's that?
Yeah, it's much better.
Okay. All right, so kind of a history of this in the Lasso community. Drono had presented on subversion last year and using subversion externals, I think, was it 2 years ago in Florida? You had done that? Yeah. So I think in the Lasso community, people have generally come to version control out of need. It's not something that they're taught. A lot of us in the Lasso community are self-taught programmers and don't really come from a computer science background. We start with a FileMaker system, mess around with FTP, and when that gets out of control or we can't handle it, then we start to look for other solutions. And so one of the solutions that I found that we use a lot in our business is called Git. If you guys have been any kind of web development over the last few years, you've probably heard of Subversion, and you may have heard of Git. I talk about Subversion, Git, CVS, not so much, and then a couple other ones, Mercurial and Bazaar. And so what I want to highlight today is kind of why we want to do this, and these are some things, that might, if you have done these, you might need version control. Have you ever looked in the trash for files? Do you ever have multiple levels of undo in a document where you're doing Command Z and Command Shift Z 5 or 10 times? Have you emailed someone to send you a copy of some files? Has anyone here ever done that? Emailed a copy of something? I was working on this talk, and Brian Middendorf and I were working on the hosted store site the other night, and it's one of the only ones that we don't have under version control. And we were both editing the same file over FTP and taking turns. And so this is what not to do. And so I said to him about 1:15 in the morning, I said, hey, can you email me copies of your files from your VD edit history? And we had a good chuckle about that. He was going to be here to help me, but I think he's still resting up. Another reason, this has happened to me. If your FTP connection dies, sometimes you get a half-saved file or a corrupted file, and that's no fun either. Especially if you are doing things like working live off an FTP server, which I would really never recommend to anybody, but we've all done it, I'm sure. What is version control? Version control, revision control, is source control or source code management, and this is right off the Wikipedia site. And what it is it's the management of changes to documents, programs, and other information that are stored as computer files. And so we're going to talk about two kinds of files that are stored under version control, like a text file or an ASCII file and binary files, and they behave a little bit differently. I'll talk to you guys about that probably right around the end of the presentation. The way that it works is that the changes that we make to the documents are usually identified by number or a letter code, and they're termed the revision number, the revision level, or simply just the revision. And then each revision is associated with a timestamp and the ID of the person making the change. And so different version systems handle this differently. But when you configure it, you set it up with an email address, and then later on when you check files, you can see who's made changes to what files. So there's two types of version control. We have centralized version control, which includes things like CVS, Subversion, Perforce, and those work off of a centralized repository. And then we have this thing that's kind of come out in the last couple of years, which is distributed version control. And distributed version control takes place with Git, Mercurial, Bazaar, and there's a couple other smaller ones that I haven't put in here just because they're not as popular. So this is a diagram that represents, what a centralized system looks like. You have kind of a spoke and hub topology to it, and so within that central repository, you go in, you check out, you do work, you check it back in. And this is a situation where you need to be online or have network access to the repository. And in contrast, a distributed version control system, you don't need to be online and you don't need to have a central repository. So let's look at a couple examples of how this would work. If you were working with Subversion, you would have to either have access to the internet or have access to the repository. You would have to host the repository on your machine, or you would have to have access to it on a local area network. With a distributed version control system, you don't ever have to be online to make commits, to make changes, to do anything except push or pull from other repositories. And so if you look at this topology here, you do see a hub in the center, but there's also other hubs. And so the way that Git works is that while you can utilize a central repository, there's a website, GitHub, that I'm going to show you in a little bit. It's not essential to do that, and you can actually pass changes around the outside of the versions. Yeah.
I think your mic died.
It probably did. It's probably out of batteries like it was the other day. Since I'm the battery guy, I probably can't stop to change it, so we'll just have to keep going. So this has become crucial for my workflow, because if you go to a coffee shop and they are on a different carrier than you are for their wireless, or you don't want to pay $10 when you're sitting in the airport, you can still work with your versioning system and make all your changes, do all your commits, and then take care of it later when you're online. So people are pretty divided about this. You've kind of got a break in the version control community. There's some people that are really holding on to Subversion because they don't understand the benefits of the distributed model versus the repository model. And this is a quote here from Linus Torvalds. And this is an email that he sent out to the KDE team about 2 years ago. And he said, hey, you can use your old model if you want to. Git doesn't force you to change, but trust me, once you start noticing how different groups can have their own experimental branches and can ask people to test stuff that isn't really ready for mainline yet, you'll see what the big deal is all about. Centralized works, it's just inferior. And then Mark Shuttleworth, the founder of Canonical and leader on the Ubuntu team, he said that merging is the key to software developer collaboration. And Ian Cladworthy, who is on the Bazaar team, says by 2011, 2012, I predict this technology will be widely adopted and many teams will wonder how they once managed without it.